So I've received another email from Dr. Joan Ifland. It's called Separating from the Art. And before I jump into this, I want to just kind of give a couple reminders. One is that I have not been a member of the ARC since mid-July of 2025. So, and this email was sent to me on February 5th, 2026. So about 6.5 months after I was removed from the addiction reset community. So yes, I was kicked out. I was kicked out because I shared an email. I sent an email to some other advocates about some concerns I had in the ARC that Joan was not addressing, and that me and others had tried many times to get her to address these concerns, and she would not. So after addressing these concerns with other ARC advocates, I was then removed from the ARC. And that happened last July. And so now 6.5 months later, I'm getting this email from her. So I'm going to read the email. It's going to read it to you. Email is titled Separation and Ongoing Legal Obligations. This letter outlines the obligations that apply upon separation from Food Addiction Reset LLC FAR, which does business as the Addiction Reset Community, Food Addiction Recovery Advocate Training, Remission Optimistic Community, Holistic Recovery Academy, and Holistic Partnership Program. This notice applies to any departing director, advocate, employee, contractor, or agent of FAR. Food Addiction Reset LLC is registered in the state of Washington and governed by Washington laws. Which is funny because Joan likes to apply Washington law when it benefits her, but doesn't apply it when it doesn't benefit her. So just stating a little observation I have made. So, as a departing director, advocate, employee, contractor, or agent, certain legal duties continue to apply after separation. These requirements are summarized below for clarity. Okay. Communications with ARC members, departure restrictions. These are things apparently you are not allowed to do when you are leaving the Addiction Reset community. However, I have not been in the community for 6.5 months, and she is now sharing this with me. I'm not really sure how she expects, like I can't go back in time and redo anything, not that I would if I could, but yeah, that's not even a possibility. But here we go. Members are accustomed to following directors, advocates, and staff as role models. Because of this influence, certain communications are strictly prohibited upon separation. What about, does this apply also, I guess, when you're kicked out? I guess maybe Joan's trying to say that it does apply when you're kicked out also. But anyway, let's keep going. You may not say goodbye to ARC members. Really? You can't say goodbye? I can't think of any company I've ever worked for when I've left the company that I couldn't say goodbye to, I won't be here tomorrow, I'm leaving, whatever. But whatever. I can't even, but in my case, I was actually kicked out. So I'm trying to apply that to normal life. So if I worked at a company and I was being removed from that company and escorted out of the building, and people saw me leaving, I would say goodbye. You won't see me again here. Yeah. So anyway, you may not say goodbye to ARC members. What about sayonara, adios, bon voyage? What about those? Can I say those things? What about see you later, alligator? I don't know. Maybe she should list all of them, or maybe she should put, in any language, you cannot say goodbye. I don't know. You may not announce your departure to ARC members. So what happens when you leave? You just disappear. People, as humans, we tend to care about people we spend a lot of time with. And if somebody just disappears, then I know from experience working in long-term care, when a resident disappears, other residents ask questions. They want to know what happened to their friend, to the person that they've been eating meals with for a year or whatever. So people are going to ask questions. You can't just disappear. People are going to, message, and they did message me. Hey, what happened? Okay. So you want to let people know what's going on so that they know that you didn't just fall off the face of the earth. Anyway, you may not announce your departure to ARC members. And this is because, and Joan, I think, is going to state this later in the letter, if I remember correctly, so that she can control the narrative of you leaving, of why you're no longer in the Addiction Reset community. You may not explain to ARC members why you are leaving. You may not suggest, encourage, or imply directly or indirectly that ARC members should leave. You may not set the example of leaving in a way that could trigger or influence ARC members to leave as well. So you can't set the example of leaving. I'm not really sure how you leave a company and not set an example. For example, me being removed from the ARC. Joan set the example there that if you say something that is in opposition to what she is doing or saying, she will remove you from the ARC. She has set the example in my case. She has set the example. I did not set the example. I guess that you could say I set the example as in I shared some concerns, and in doing so, sharing concerns, I was removed from the ARC. So that was the example I got. But I don't know how you not set an example. Even if you leave, just decide that you want to leave the company for whatever reason. How do you leave a company without setting an example of that? Such conduct is damaging to ARC and constitutes interference with FAR's business relationships. Well, I'm just going to say that I think the way Joan is handling things is in and of itself damaging to her business relationships with ARC members and ARC advocates. ARC staff alone will this is it right here. ARC staff alone will manage all communications necessary to bring ARC members to peace regarding your departure. You are not authorized to communicate with ARC members regarding your separation in any other matters. So, you are not authorized to communicate with ARC members. So basically, if you are an advocate and you have members and you are in a group with all of them, and then one day you're just gone, whew. Oh, Joan's going to communicate with them why they left. So Joan gets to say disparaging things about you while you are no longer in the community. That's allowed, but you're not allowed to say disparaging things about Joan or her practices. Got it. Okay, moving on. Public statements. Under Washington law, it is unlawful to make disparaging, false, or deceptive statements about FAR or its affiliated programs, even if such statements are framed as personal opinions. Wrong. And Joan, I would really, really like it for you to cite what Washington law this is. If you could reference that, please send me a follow-up email referencing what Washington law says it is unlawful to make disparaging, false, or deceptive statements about FAR. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you may not like what I have to say about you or about FAR. You may consider that as disparaging statements. However, they are my opinion, my experience, and my truth. Therefore, they are not unlawful. Trade secrets and confidential information. Washington law, including the Washington Uniform Trade Secrets Act, which here she does cite a law, prohibits the taking, retention, or use of FAR trade secrets. This includes, but not limited to, any information from member lists, advocate lists, employee lists, training materials, internal communications, and any confidential or proprietary information related to FAR members, advocates, employees, programs, or operations. Okay. All FAR materials must be promptly returned and deleted. Written materials must be returned to Joan. She gives an address. And electronic files must be emailed, and she gives an email address. Afterward, all electronic data and information of any kind relating to FAR must be permanently deleted from all devices and accounts. Okay, so I just want to address a couple things with this. So I know at one point Joan was citing that because I emailed advocates and some trainees, some FAR trainees, about my concerns, that I wasn't supposed to do that because it was, those were, let's see, let me get how she puts it here. The use of FAR trade secrets. Well, I was still a member of the ARC at the time when I sent that email. So I didn't use those emails outside of the ARC. But I also want to state that the moment she kicked me out of the ARC, she sent me a cease and desist letter, and which I did a video on that, and I'll link it up here, and you can go back and watch that if you'd like. But she threatened a lawsuit. She threatened to take me to court at that time. And the moment she threatened to take me to court, what information I had, what lists I had, whatever she's implying in here that she thinks I might have, became evidence to back up what I'm saying should we go to court. So at this point in time, for my protection and to back up what I'm saying, should she decide to take me to court, I will retain that information for now. Number 4. Duty of loyalty and fiduciary obligations. Under Washington common law, again, she does not cite a law here. She just says under Washington law. Directors, advocates, employees, contractors, and agents owe continuing duties of loyalty to FAR, even after separation and even in the absence of a non-compete agreement. These duties include, but not limited to, not using FAR's confidential information for personal gain, not competing with FAR using FAR information for relationships, or using FAR information or relationships, not diverting FAR business opportunities. It is unlawful to engage in conduct adverse to FAR's interest or that undermines FAR's business reputation or relationships. Okay, not using FAR. Okay, I do not have a competing business. Just because I once worked somewhere, and this includes working for Joan, there is no automatic lifelong loyalty duty to any company anyone's ever worked for. That's just not a thing. Joan would like to make it sound like there is, that is a thing, because in doing so, she's trying to scare. It's a scare tactic, in my opinion. She doesn't want anybody to ever say anything that doesn't put her up on some pedestal and make her sound like the most wonderful person in the world. And I'm sorry, you can't be everything to everybody as much as you would like to be that. And we all have differing opinions. People are going to not agree with what I'm saying today. People are going to not agree with how I am managing this or dealing with this. And that's okay. That is their opinion, and they have a right to it. And I have a right to my opinion and my experience. And I'm sorry if you don't like what I have to say, then maybe you should do better with how you treat people and how you run your business. Yeah, I mean, that's just life. That's just life, Joan. And not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to like everything. So, number 5, interference with relationships. FAR has valid and ongoing contractual and prospective relationships with its members, advocates, employees, and partners. It is unlawful to interfere with those relationships, including by disseminating statements or engaging in conduct intended or reasonably likely to dissuade participation in FAR programs. Okay, well, Joan, I'm allowed to share my experience. As my First Amendment right, to share my experience and to share my truth and what I feel and know and believe to be true. I am allowed to share that information. There are people out there, I'm sure, Joan, although I haven't seen anybody publicly who has worked with you, encourage people to sign up for your courses or your community. People that are in your community who are still maybe, dare I use the word brainwashed. I feel that people should have all information, whether it is good information or not so good information. I think people who are in the community now, if they're getting stuff out of it, because there are a lot of great people within the community of the ARC. I mean, I met a lot of amazing people. And so I am not discounting that at all. And if people want to join your community and check it out for themselves, I encourage them to do so. They should do that. And I'm just one person's opinion. If other people shared their experience, then there'd be more information out there for people to gather, and then they can make a better informed decision. But I'm sharing my experience so that people can make a well-informed decision for themselves. I am not telling anyone not to join the Addiction Reset community. I'm just merely sharing my experience. They are making their own decision because they are smart and able to do that. Wouldn't you agree with that, Joan? Wouldn't you agree with people are able to make their own decisions? Or are you saying that they are not? And I also say that if you are in the Addiction Reset community and you're getting good value out of it, it's something good for you, stay. I'm not telling you should leave the I'm not telling anybody they should leave the Addiction Reset community. I'm just simply saying, if you have had this experience, or if something doesn't feel right to you, you're not the only one. And I don't want that person to feel like there's something wrong with them because they aren't having all the warm fuzzies feelings that Joan thinks people should have in the Addiction Reset community. Especially the closer and closer you work with Joan, it becomes more and more apparent. And that's what I was going to say. I don't know of a single person, and I'm not saying I know everybody, but of the people I do know and follow who have left the Addiction Reset community, I don't know of a single one who promotes the Addiction Reset community. And that says a lot about the community. I don't know of a single director or person who has worked closely with Joan, including advocates who have climbed their way up through the company and have worked really closely with Joan, who have left the Addiction Reset community who promote the Addiction Reset community. I can't think of one. Now, if there's somebody out there, hey, drop their name in the comments below. I'd love to check out whatever video or content they've put out that is saying, hey, this is a great community to be a part of. Somebody who has actually been a part of the community and has left and still says that it's a great community. If you're still in the community and you're saying it's a great community, then I'm sorry, but you have alternative motives. I do not have any alternative motives. I'm not trying to solicit you for another company. I'm not trying to solicit anybody to come to my company because I don't have one. So I'm just sharing my experience. That is all. Number 6, proprietary data and property. It is unlawful to retain or misuse FAR's proprietary data, convert FAR's property for personal benefit, or be unjustly enriched at FAR's expense. Well, I think I've already addressed that. I'm not making any money off of anything. I'm not using any of FAR's, let me see, how's it put in here? Any of FAR's proprietary data. I'm not using any of that. So I'm simply making videos and putting it out on YouTube. We trust this letter clearly outlines the legal requirements that apply upon separation and appreciate your cooperation in complying with Washington law. Again, Joan, if you could supply the statutes in which you are referring to when you say Washington law. You only mentioned that you only shared that information once, and that was with trade secrets and confidential information. If you could share also those statutes, the Washington law statutes for number 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, that would be greatly appreciated. And you can share them here. You can comment on this video if you'd like, or send me another email. But I'm sure you probably won't want to comment on this video because then that would just let people know that you're watching my content. In closing, I just want to say that if the Addiction Reset community was a healthy organization like Joan likes to portray that it is, then it would be okay to say goodbye to people when you are leaving the community. Not only that, Joan would be thankful and thanking leaders, directors, advocates who are departing, and encouraging them to go out and start their own communities. But that's not what you see, and that is not what happened. She shuts down anyone who has ever left the community. That has been what I have seen. I have not seen Joan promote anyone who has ever left the community and gone out and started their own communities. Now, on her website, for her addiction reset, for the food addiction recovery advocate training, it clearly states on there that she wants all these ARCs all over the place. All these people, hey, go start your own ARC, But when they do, no, not really. Not really. She doesn't really want that. No, it's misleading. Anyway, well, that's my 2 cents. And with that, I'm just going to leave you with goodbye.